Admonition the 17th. Gossip is a land of confusion. The second time we visited Dunnans, it was late summer, with the surety of an offer accepted and an implicit question: would we go through with the purchase? We did harbour doubts, and who would not? What had driven us onward was that first moment on the bridge, that recognition of something wonderful. Now that the castle was ours to finalise the purchase on, we wanted to explore just what it was we'd let ourselves in for. Some 6 miles down the glen from Dunnans, through the verdant tunnel of the A886, lies the clachan of Glendaruel, a village set off the main road but along Telford's original twin thoroughfares, now called respectively the West and the Old Road. Kirk, school, sports field, glebe, play park and hotel are set among 10 or 11 households and a couple of businesses. The settlement also contains the archaeologically important Kilmodon standing stones and is near to St Moden's Well on the hill above. The clachan's claim to fame was that the kirk had been served by its own man of God for over 1,000 years, according to the records, although by the time of writing the Church of Scotland had amalgamated 4 parishes and the new man is billeted in Tinabruch, leaving the manse empty. This disconnection between kirk and hamlet, between God and the community, between Glendaruel and its history, was to later become a theme of life in Coal Glen, as we locals call it. But for now, we arrived to what seemed a thriving and at times slightly baffling, but manifestly charming community. We swung into the clachan on a Saturday, early evening, to a hotel bathed in gorgeous low-hung summer sun and the low hum of conversation emanating from the bar door set at the end of the building. Once we'd settled ourselves in our room, the one with the picturesque views of the clachan, we went down to the bar and a meal set out for us on one side of a large round table in the only bay window. Once it had been established that we were aiming to restore and live at Dunnans, rather than develop it, or holiday in it, or tear it down, or use it as an old folks' home, we spent the evening in the warm fug of seemingly endless local bonhomie, most of it sliding in and out of the bench opposite us as we ate. Michael, it transpired, was both warm host and social glue, garrulous and erudite by turns, a Bob Dylan enthusiast with a serious penchant for Fiats and Ferraris. He managed to maintain the rumble of bar chat among all of the incumbents of the rank of stools which sat as if in worship to the 4 ale pumps. We learned from a series of interlocutors, coordinated by our irrepressible host, in accents that range from West Coast brogue to RP to Yorkshire to Welsh, the following items. That Madonna nearly used Dunnans for her wedding to Guy Ritchie, everyone. That the owners didn't believe that the fax they received from Madge's management to inquire about using the castle was genuine, twice. That there were fireplaces rescued from the ruin by locals under cover of night and they were being held against the eventual restoration of the building, thrice. That a collection of Fabergé eggs had been lost in the fire, once. That the stories of the Fabergé eggs were made up by a journalist from a certain Sunday newspaper, once. That the owners had insisted on being called Lord and Lady, 6 times. That is, they insisted on it until they were threatened with legal action by a prominent Scottish family, once. That, of course, the fire was an insurance job, 4 times. That, of course, the fire was not an insurance job, thrice. That the fire had been started by a disgruntled employee, once. That the fire had been started by a guest who returned from an evening out on the tiles and found his room too cold and began a small conflagration in the grate of his fireplace using the now scentless potpourri the lady of the house had placed there to dissuade guests from lighting a fire, once. That the top of the glen had always been a little unhinged, a microclimate of madness all of its own, 3 times in various guises. That we should take care to secure everything so that the regular salvage visits were stopped, everyone. That since the Fletchers had left, some people, unspecified, had been getting above themselves, twice. That since the Fletchers had left, some people, individuals named and catalogued, had been getting above themselves, 3 times, different actors mentioned. That if you farted at one end of the glen, it had been parlayed into a storm of the century at the other end within 3 hours. Several times, different metaphors. That the previous folks who were interested had been scared off by the stories, these stories, and anyway, who wanted Dunnans to be restored as a holiday home? Everyone.